So happy birthday to the finals, and great job, Embark, for running this game for a full year now. It's been really, really exciting watching this game grow and getting to see all the players just sort of come into fruition. There's so many big names within this community. I've gotten to meet and greet with so many different people. It's just so exciting to be here, and I just kind of wanted to talk about potentially the future of what's going to happen with the finals, maybe some predictions. And then I also want to specifically talk about my channel and what I'm planning to do in the upcoming year and just kind of give you guys a bit of a heads up for what's to come. Now, I want to say December was easily my best month ever. The views were incredible. The interactions were amazing. I got to meet so many new people. There were so many first-time chatters on Twitch, and you guys have been extremely kind and supportive, and I cannot thank you enough. It is so amazing to be able to kind of sit here and think that I have essentially a second job. I work full-time as a graphic designer, and now I get to do content creation and playing video games, one of my favorite video games of all time, as a part-time job. And it's all thanks to you guys and all the support that you guys have given me. So thank you so much. Now, December was a bit of an oddity when it comes to how much content I pumped out. I was doing 4 shorts a week and 3 full-length videos every single week. So when I have a full-time job, I also like to spend time with my girlfriend, trying to pump out that amount of content. As somebody who does this independently, I don't pay any editors. I don't want any editors. I want full control of what's going on. So being able to pump out that much was quite a bit. I got a little bit burnt out, and I took a week break during the holidays because I just wanted to spend time with my family, my girlfriend, friends, and I just wanted to kind of relax a little bit. So coming back to it now, I got some clips here that you're going to see on screen. I have some gameplay to show, but I don't have a lot because I took a whole week off. I try to work a little bit in advance so that you guys have something to look forward to. So this week, I'm only going to have this video. I'm not going to have any other shorts, anything else. I'm going to just take a little bit of a breather, and I just need to kind of catch up. I need to start playing the game. I need to start, warming up again. Even when I was playing recently, it just felt like my aim was a little bit off. And we're going to go back to the regular schedule of just 2 videos a week with the odd short, maybe 2 a week, 1 a week, maybe even none a week, just here and there as little fillers when I feel like I can put it out. But the amount of content that I put out in December is just not sustainable. I had tons of very, very small amount of sleeps for like an entire week, just barely sleeping for an entire week just so that I can pump out content. And it burned me out a little bit. Embark was kind enough to reach out to me and invite me into their content creator program. So that is why I really wanted to step up and just make sure December was my biggest and best month ever. So I'm going to tone it back. We're going to get back into some of the interviews now that I've done some of the educational stuff. I've talked about stats, meta, stuff like that. I want to tone it down a little bit so that I can go back to interviewing some people that you guys want to see. Maybe go into coaching. I know so many people loved my coaching video, so I really wanted to kind of step into that realm. I also want to coach my team, which now we can kind of get into what is happening in the finals. So we know that there is the 100K tournament. I'm super excited to see where this 100K tournament goes. I am really excited to see tons of friends that I've, grown up playing with in this community. We've all kind of grown together within this small space, and I am so excited to see their names. I am rooting for basically everybody. I just love this community. I'm friends with pretty much every single player that is in the comp space. It's nice to kind of get along with people, all regions. And I'm going to have my team, and my goal is to be a coach for my team. So we are currently in the process of sort of finding a person to replace me as a light player. So it's going to be Kip, Strafes, and then typically I was always the third, but I really wanted to step into a coaching role. And the main reason for that is because of this year. So we're going to have a bunch of new stuff comp-wise from this game. Embark has been teasing and talking about so many different things comp-wise. We also have the entire announcement that they did about the 100K tournament. They've created a program in order to help make sure that we are steering the game in a direction that allows competitive players a space. So making sure that we have better features in private matches, like how we got the final round. And they're also kind of working on some other features that might be really good for streamers. So I'm excited to see where that goes. I feel like the balancing this season has been one of the best ever. We are still in a plug meta, which I think a lot of people want to see addressed. And I'm definitely one of those people. It'd be nice to see the plug meta sort of go away, or at least them sort of address it to some degree, if they could either add more counterplay or if they want to just remove it altogether. I'm not too sure. I'm also assuming when it comes to season 6, we're going to see similar things, whether it be new gadgets, new specs, and are the weapons and stuff going to be like overpowered, underpowered? I'm not too sure, but I feel like this season they've done a fantastic job of introducing 2 new weapons that didn't feel completely useless, but they also didn't feel extremely overpowered. They feel like they fit really well within the roles that they're given, unlike some of the previous seasons where, like season 2, the 9-3R and the FAMAS were just complete jokes. At least the FAMAS has risen a little bit with little tweaks here and there. The 9-3R finally was able to get a buff where it saw a little bit of play, but as you'll see in comp play and high elo ranked, basically the 9-3R has completely disappeared as I had predicted. I know a lot of people were kind of surprised by the whole, like, how could you put it in C tier? But then when we look at the competitive scene and if we're looking at tournaments and stuff, the 9-3R is completely non-existent. So it just took a little bit of time for people to kind of catch up, but I feel like as I predicted, I was kind of right. Now, another update about my life for this year coming up, 2025, I actually intend to finally buy a house with my girlfriend. So it's been quite a while, like since I've had a full-time job, I've been raising money and I've been trying to save up enough, investing a lot of my money, always working like basically 2 jobs. This is a big reason why I really wanted to start doing content creation. I was actually doing this and also modding mice and seeing which one was a little bit more profitable, which one kind of clicked with people, and it seemed like a lot of people really wanted to watch the finals content. So I decided I'm just going to go down that route and start making content for it because I love this game and I felt very passionate about it. So for me, I feel like I'm finally in a place where I'm able to put a down payment on a house and move out and kind of start that chapter of my life. So that's a big reason why I'm probably going to have to sit back on the content once that happens. I'll probably, mention it to you guys at some point, but I won't be able to sustain the amount of uploads and streams that I'm currently doing. I don't know when that will be. The plan is this year coming up, but it could potentially be the year after. I mean, you never know with the housing market. And if you guys don't know about the Canadian housing market, it is pretty freaking hilarious. It's really, really bad. But I've worked my ass off and I feel like I'm finally getting close to it. And it is in part to the fact that you guys have been so supportive. Sure, it's not like I'm making a ton of money doing this, but honestly, all this has been really helping me not only just get by, but thrive recently. And I know when I make that step, I'm going to have to tone it down, so I might make a little bit less, but it's been a very beneficial path for me to take doing this. And that's another reason why I wanted to kind of step back from, playing in the comp scene and not really like going for the 100K tournament or anything like that, but just being a coach, because I feel like the coach role will suit my availability. The time that I have to give to my team is going to be a lot less. So it felt a lot more logical to simply find somebody to replace me so that I could coach them. But I still intend to keep making content. I still intend to keep streaming this game, playing this game for the foreseeable future. I'm not going to quit, but I just need to let you guys know that the reason why the content might slow down just early in the year is simply because I just need to kind of get back in the groove of things after the big holiday. I'm not going to be able to put out as much content as I did in December. I'm going to go back to what it was in the previous season. And then at some point in the future, maybe summer, maybe later, I really don't know, but there's going to be a little bit of a pause there and I'll probably talk about it. Now, in terms of the finals, I kind of want to give a little bit of a review for it and basically what I want to see in the game moving forward. So as it stands right now, I feel like the balancing of this game is actually in a really good spot. The few things about balancing that I would like to see, particularly about the classes like light, heavy, medium. I don't really want to talk about cash out just yet, but for light, I feel like the variety of weapons that are, viable in the competitive scene is very limited. It's basically just LH1. We've seen multiple teams try out different things. In the odd time we get to see the M26, that's mainly Carnifex. And from time to time we've seen like M11, but it doesn't do well. The XP does quite well, although it does feel like it does get outclassed by the LH1. But it does feel like it's picked up from time to time and it has moderate success. And then most other things under it just don't really thrive. I like using the bow from time to time. Obviously, I know that it's not that good and I usually whip out LH1. So it'd be nice to see a little bit more variety in that class. When it comes to medium, I feel like it's a similar thing. We just see model and the FAMAS with the odd F-car from time to time. Other than that, most of the rest of the class is kind of meh. But there's not really too many other guns that I think we would actually see in the meta. I mean, if Riot Shield or CO40 becomes meta, I'm sure a lot of people would be pretty frustrated about that. And when it comes to heavy, I'm glad that the Shack is actually seeing quite a bit of light. We do see a few Lewis gun players, and the Lewis gun on heavy is typically used by controller players. PC players don't really use it much outside of like Kazo, for example. But the SA-12 and the Shack seem to be doing quite well within the meta, which I'm happy about, but I would like to see more variety. And I would like the SA-12 to not be like the only pick, the top dog that it's been forever. It'd be nice to see some differences there. I think the gadgets are quite good in terms of variety. I think a lot of things get used as counter picks. The one interaction that I'm not too happy with is thermal vision, basically completely, countering cloak. I think that interaction itself just isn't fun. I don't know if there's a way that they can tweak it to make it a little bit more enjoyable, but it just feels a little wrong, especially when you're playing in scrims. Like if you're playing HML scrims, it's like you always have to have thermal vision. It's just this cloak v cloak thermal vision war. And sure, you can bring in dash because, you expect them to use thermal vision, but it's actually better to have them on thermal vision than to have them on something like stun or frag, which in turn will make it much harder for your team. So if they don't have anything to use thermal vision against, then they can bring something else that harasses your team. Your job as a light is to deal with that light. So this whole you're forced to use cloak to force them into thermal vision feels a little bit weird. I'm hoping that they can do something about that. If not, sure, I guess we'll just stick with thermal vision. I personally don't really like using thermal vision. It also doesn't really make for good clips. Like it just visually, I don't think it's very fun, but in the odd cases where people use it with like smoke or something like that, it's kind of fun, but that's not always the case. It 9 times out of 10 is just to counter another cloak player. Now for medium gadgets, I think medium gadgets are feeling pretty good balance wise. The only thing is that the defib, I'm not a big fan of the way that they changed it. I'm a fan that they addressed the fact that defib was so mandatory. My biggest issue with the defib change is that it punishes the person being defib. It does not punish the person defibbing. And I think that is something that is basically just a huge oversight. Like if I'm being defibbed, I don't want to be punished. It's not my choice to have the medium defib me right in the open when there's like 3 heavies just standing around me. It doesn't feel quite right. And when it comes to heavy, again, the gadgets have been pretty stale for a while. It's basically just RPG, barricade, or C4, and dome shield. There's really not many other options. I'd like to see anti-grav get some tweaks, some buffs, something like that, because I feel like if the anti-grav was a little bit more in the meta, that would be a lot more enjoyable for everybody. It's just a more fun and interactive gadget. And winch, I would like to see not be the best pick. If they could allow mesh to block winches, I feel like that could add some nice counterplay to bring mesh a little bit more up in the meta, but as it stands, winch is probably the best. And for the new map, I think the new map is really fun. I enjoyed a lot, and I want to get into the cash out and the changes that I would want to see going forward this year. And my biggest one is spawns. I think what they need to do to rework spawns is you and another team should spawn close to one vault, and it should happen on the other side with another 2 teams. And that's currently what's happening. I think they need to be a little bit more strict about these spawns and make it happen a little bit more frequently throughout the rest of the game and not just at the beginning. And then on top of that, I think that vaults and cash outs need to be close to each other. So if there is one vault on one side of the map and the other vault's on the other side of the map, then both cash outs should be close to each vault, so they should be on opposite sides of the map. Now, the main reason for this is that when you are first place and you get that first plug, you very often are able to just run to the other side of the map and stop them, because that other side of the map is actually pretty short distance. I think they need to restrict it a little bit further away so that that distance is not so short. And this happens a lot throughout the game, and especially once we get to vaults like 4, 5, 6, stuff like that, where you end up having a lot of staggered vaults around then, and it makes it a lot easier for me to plug, and the other one hasn't even been tapped. Now I can go there, third party that fight, plug that one, wait for someone stealing the first, cash out, go back, third party that, and you just repeat this cycle of plugging and then third partying, plugging, third partying, and it's just this battle between 2 teams to see who can do that better, and then whoever ends up first place just griefs out another team. I do it all the time. I'm sure you guys have had it happen plenty of times. You're in second place, you've been fighting the entire lobby, the entire game, because first place just got some free buy because nobody wanted to fight them on one side of the map, and then all of a sudden this first place team is now trying to double up the last one just to get you out. They double it up. You're second place, but the last place team that only had 5K is now about to get 35K, and you're only at 32K. And so you have to fight every single team in order to steal that one. Even though you were winning all these other fights, winning all the other objectives, you got punished because first place team decided, oh, I'm just going to grief you out. And very often that's just because they got a free buy. Sometimes they fight for it, sometimes they don't, but it doesn't feel right to be the first place team and then choose who gets through rather than, the second best team being the one to actually make it through. It seems like first place has far too much control without enough punishment. It's very easy to go and grief out another team. The 10% loss is very often not enough to really matter, and it's very easy to just quickly double up any cash out that you want if you so choose to do so. Especially with stuff like stun, just being able to make somebody drop the cash out, then you just quickly throw it to the other side of the map or throw it at the objective. Like, this happens all the time. So for me, I'd like to see them work on the spawn and the spawn logic for both players and objectives. And I think that would help out a lot. And finally, I think the final round needs to be reworked. I think they can test this out in World Tour by making final round just a different game mode, maybe tweaking the way that the spawns work, having it fixed so potentially it could be one team starts with a cash out and the other team starts by picking their spawn, and then they go and push and try to steal it. And they have the full 2 minutes in order to try and steal it. Then if they don't succeed, or if they do succeed, there's like a timer that is set, and then it flips, and now we go back to the person who was originally defending now attacking that same point while that team is defending, and they get 2 minutes, and whoever can steal it faster wins. Or if neither team could steal, then it can just go to the next objective until somebody wins twice. I'm not really too sure if this would make sense, but I think it would be a little bit more fair because there's a lot of downtime in the final round and there's a lot of fights that feel completely meaningless. Like, a lot of fights over vaults don't really matter as much. Sure, it's nice to have that tempo, but realistically, there's going to be maybe 2 or 3 more fights until it matters. Another thing that really bothers me about final round is if you use stuff like RPG or even gateways, some of these things that have a pretty long cooldown, if you use that near the end of the fight, you wipe an entire team, and then all of a sudden they're back up pushing you while you don't have your cooldowns because everything was used in the last fight. So now you're at a disadvantage because you succeeded, which just feels wrong. And it's mainly an issue with the final round. It does creep its head a little bit in cash out rounds, but I think fixing the cooldowns for specializations and gadgets to compensate for the fact that people are going to be up in your face within another 25 seconds or whatever could probably help with making the game flow a lot better, especially in the final round. And another thing is when it comes to hosting a 100K tournament, there needs to be a little bit more interaction for the viewers, because I think the final round is not very fun at all for the casual viewer, whereas cash out is a lot more exciting because there's a lot more going on. There's so many last second steals. There's just chaos going on all the time. There's third party elements that could just, all of a sudden happen. So the sporadic nature of cash out lends itself a little bit better to viewers. But the final round is a lot more fair, and a lot of competitive players prefer that. So I think that's why we need to start experimenting with it in World Tour and figure out what is best for the game. Anyways, I'm gonna leave you guys with that. Feel free to subscribe so you don't miss out on any content. I obviously plan to keep doing some content in the near future. And if you aren't already, it would be nice if you guys would sign up for a membership. Like I said, a lot of this matters a lot. I have a pretty cheap option if you guys did want to support me. I look forward to seeing all of you guys in 2025 playing the finals. Get out there and have some fun, and I will see you in the finals.